Hey, this is Lorena, and I wanted to do a video on a 1/4 seam foot or a quilter's foot or a piecer's foot. I don't know exactly what they call it. 1/4 inch foot, I think that's what it's called. I wanted to do a tutorial on what type of feet you can use for piecing quilt tops, and also, do you need one? Another thing I wanted to share with you is I wanted to do a quilt on straight line piecing. It's just learning how to piece a quilt top just using a straight seam. I hope you like this video. When I taught at the elderly community, one of the things that I really had to teach the students at my church and at the elderly community is how just to sew a 1/4 seam and do it in a way and do it straight and just do straight lines. You're gonna need a seam foot, a quilter's foot, or a piecing foot that goes specifically to your machine. And on my Singer Talent sewing machine, I had a 4 seam foot that had a wall to it so that the fabric would line up to the edge of that wall. And if the fabric was nice and lined up as they sewed along, they knew they got a 4th seam. Now, I also have another foot that I use for my XL 6000 Singer. Can you tell I like singers? Yeah, I like singers. And this one does not have a wall. And if you flip the fabric in 2 different directions, you get a 4th seam. And also, too, let me just share this. You don't have to have a foot to do this. It helps to keep your eye lined up to the foot line, but on my sewing machine, my Juki 210, I don't have a 1 full seam foot. I use the bottom bar on my sewing machine. It has a 1/4 on it, and it has some lines that you followed through. Now, I've been sewing for a long time. For the group that I did, I would use the foot that had the wall on it, and so that visually, a new beginner knew where the fabric needed to sit. But in truth, you don't need it, okay? But it helps. So if you're really new at this and you haven't done any type of sewing, one of the things that I used to do to get people comfortable with the sewing machine, like I used to teach at elderly community, women that were 101 years old who hadn't gotten on a sewing machine for years, and have them practice on lined paper how to follow the line with their sewing machine. They got more comfortable with the foot, the sewing machine. They got more comfortable with turning on the machine, getting the machine going, and so it wasn't as intimidating as when they first sat down. And so that's one of the things I used to do with my elderly community. I would get them just to practice on paper. Yeah, you can. I'll have some video of that. Okay, bye. Line up the thread or the needle to the thread line and have them kind of just feel what it feels sewing a straight line on paper, and kind of have them lift the foot, turn, go down a bit, stop, and have them turn the fabric so that they could turn as if they were quilting, and then get them to line the fabric and just learn how to sew straight lines with paper. Now, in this section of the video, I recommend when you're doing long strips of sewing, I recommend that you pin if you're a beginner. I think pinning your 2 pieces together when they're kissing each other and pinning all the way down is very helpful, because once you have pinned everything, you don't have to worry about if your fabrics are lined up or if a fabric is shifted up and you're not really sewing them together. If they're pinned, you kind of gather them together and go along, and you know that your whole strip is pinned. So all you have to do is worry about is putting it through that machine and making sure that it's straight. I also wanted to share this with you. After a period of time, sometimes you don't want to pin your strips, and that's all right. you're going to get to the point that you get so good that you're going to get your two fabrics together that are lined up, put it on the machine, and you're going to sew for a period of time, making sure your seams are one on top of each other, and the seams are lined up edge to each other, okay? So that's the factor. One on top of each other, and the seams edge to edge. And you're going to go ahead and sew. Pause, stop for a minute, reset your fabric, then sew again. Stop for a minute and reset your fabric and keep doing so you don't have to pin. But initially, when you first start, I do recommend that you pin, because all you're going to have to worry about is beginners tend to struggle with their machine. How to put the foot, have their feet on the presser foot and having the foot down. Sometimes they forget to put the foot down. Sometimes you forget to, we all go through it. After a period of time, your machine is going to be, it's like driving a vehicle or doing something that you normally do very easy.